The prospering power of self-motivation. That's our topic for today's episode of Let's Talk About It. So let's get into it. Self-motivation is your own ability to find enthusiasm, interest, and passion for a particular task, using them as driving force to complete it. There are two common types of motivation, namely internal and external. We want to focus in this episode on the internal force of motivation. Internal motivation is the one that comes from within you, from interests, passions, alignment with personal values, and the sense of joy and accomplishment when performing the task provides. Another thing I want you to keep in mind is self-encouragement. Self-encouragement is believing in one's own self and one's own ability to overcome all of one's own limitations and hang-ups or handicaps. The quality of being capable of hard work and effective in that work and giving effort without the need for outside pressures from others. This is self-encouragement. Now, for a foundation, I want to use 1 Samuel chapter 30, verse 6. It's a Hebrew scripture in the Hebrew Bible, and it talks about David, King David. And it says, "And David was greatly distressed, for the people spake of stoning him, because the soul of the people was grieved, every man for his son and for his daughters. But David encouraged himself in the Lord, or law of mind, his God." So in 1 Samuel chapter 30, verse 6, which I just read to you, we see King David. We see him in a very distressing set of circumstances. The city of Ziklag was burned with fire. His kingdom had become invaded. David was personally affected due to the fact that two of his wives were also among the captives. And with all of this turmoil, it was enough to drive any person wild, to bring any man to his knees. But on top of all of this that he was experiencing, the people he ruled over as king was ready to stone him to death due to the grief of the loss of their loved ones. So the question becomes, when you're faced with tumultuous situations, when you're faced with tasks at hand and grief and trauma, when all odds are against you, what do you do? When all odds are against you, what do you do? What course of action do you take? Where do you run to when all odds are against you? Everything and everyone has left you for dead, and the feeling of desertion sets in, and it comes upon you. When the thoughts and feeling of defeat and being downtrodden and hopelessness and helplessness start creeping in to the very core of your being, what do you do? How do you get out of that? This is something that you and I must do like David did. We must look within ourselves. We must look to the God within, as David did. I want to encourage you to let this character David be our guide, our example of the prospering power of self-motivation. It is said that David went into the faculty of his mind, as you and I must do, and he encouraged himself in the Lord or law of mind, his God. Remember, God is within, not without. So he went into that secret place of the Most High within him. And he remembered, as we must, that God in me is my very present help in the time of trouble. That God in me is my answer to every situation I face. And because the limitless God lives within me, I can conquer any obstacle that comes before me, that attempts to stand in my way of progress. David found his inner passion for being a divinely appointed leader. He reflected on his duties and responsibility as a father to a nation, a husband to his wives, and a father to his children. And he encouraged himself that this cannot be the end. I can't give up now. I can't stop here because I have someone depending on me. I can't stop because I have a purpose. I cannot let myself down because I have within me what it takes to make it to the top and remain there. And you have to know that you can't give up, that you can't stop. Hello, you. Yes, you. You can't stop. You can't give up. Not now. Why? Because you have within you what it takes to make it to the top and remain there. Never let anybody put in your head anything else. See, this character in this story, this biblical story, David, he wasn't going to allow what was happening around him and in his life to cause him to fall into despair, to forget who he was and whose he was and what he was. And a lot of times we allow circumstances to dictate our memory, to dictate who we are, whose we are, what we are. But we have to keep the main thing, and stay focused. Don't fall into despair, because that's how you fall out the race. That's how you give up too early, because you lose focus. That's what hinders us from progress, from victory, and total success in life. It's that giving up, that woe is me attitude. That at the slightest opposition, that, my friend, is the type of thinking and attitude that only leads to total defeat. And so we got to change our mindset and take the posture of the prospering power of self-motivation, self-encouragement. When no one else is there to encourage you, you got to reach way down, look within, and the resources of your soul and pull up the God within and know that you have what it takes to make it to the top and to remain there.